But for many of us, it's not something we think happens right here on the First Coast. Well, believe me, it does. Joining us to break that myth is Jacksonville's own Safe Harbor for Survivors of Human Trafficking. Please welcome the founder and executive director of Her Song Jax, Rachel White, to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome to the chat.
Thank you
for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
So we're reading so much more about this, and a lot of people, like I was saying earlier, think that this is happening in major cities across the country and not right here in Jacksonville. But I'm reading articles and I'm seeing news stories where it is happening. So how did you get involved with human trafficking?
Well, I actually got involved through volunteering. I'm a licensed counselor, and someone approached me about providing some pro bono counseling for a local survivor, and I said, okay, I'll do this. And that was such an incredible learning experience for me. First of all, just to see the trauma that this woman had been through was just unbelievable. There are no words to describe what these ladies go through. And, you know, but also down the line to see her healed, you know, to see her moving on with her life. She got married, you know, she was reunited with her children, and it was just such a great success story, you know. And so at that moment I really had this aha, like, you know, this is really important work in our community. I've got to keep doing this.
So let's talk about how big of a problem this is right here in Northeast Florida.
Well, we do have a significant problem. You know, Florida is ranked 3rd out of 50 states in human trafficking reports.
Really?
And so Jacksonville is one of the major cities for human trafficking right here in our state. So we have a significant problem. Law enforcement, we work closely with them. They tell us that, you know, in the last several years, they've recovered 200 females from their traffickers, and primarily they're adult females. There have been some minors, but they believe that this is maybe even less than 10% of the problem. And so there are many, many young ladies out on our streets today that are trapped in human trafficking.
Rachel, do we know why Jacksonville? I mean, is it because of where we are location-wise?
I think it's just because I think it's a problem across the United States. I don't think it's because one city has one thing or another. I think this is happening in rural areas, in vacation destinations. It's happening online. I mean, I just think it's a pervasive problem across the world. We have ladies that have even been trafficked out of places you would never think, like Palatka, or, you know, out in the country. So it's really everywhere.
So I'm going to just put it out there and ask the question, how does this happen? I mean, how does human trafficking even get started?
I think it really starts with young people who have vulnerabilities in their past. You know, when you have prior violence and prior trauma in your background, you're exceptionally vulnerable to traffickers who are looking for that. You know, they're looking for these young people who, for them, violence and trauma has been normalized for them.
So how difficult is it for them to get out?
Extremely difficult. I think it's very challenging. And, you know, we may not understand on this side. We might say things or think things like, just run, you know, just leave. Why don't you leave, you know? But there's so much psychological manipulation. There's so much psychological control that these traffickers have. This makes it extremely difficult. And most ladies don't have anywhere to go. They're disconnected relationally from anyone that could support them or help them heal and get back on their feet. So this really keeps women trapped. There's this really strong sense of dependence between them and their trafficker. You know, he cares for me, he puts a roof over my head, he does my hair, he, you know, buys me clothes, he fixes me up. You know, I have everything I need, right?
Isn't it called grooming? Isn't that what it's called, grooming? They grab a girl from a mall and they groom her by fixing your hair, making sure you're pretty, making sure you have new clothes. And so they just reel you right in, and especially the young girls, right? I'm sure they just take to that so easily.
Yes, if you're a young girl with low self-esteem, if you have an unstable family environment where there's nobody there to really support you and help you develop as a human being. I mean, that's why we have families, right? That's why kids have parents, right? And so when there's nobody there, and these guys are able to kind of step in and play that role.
Now, so many times we hear of the young lady who is being, you know, used in this way. Whatever happens to the trafficker? Do they ever get caught? Do they ever get prison time? Whatever happens to them, I mean, they're the root cause of this because they are going after these young innocent girls.
Yes, they are, and we certainly hope that they get arrested and get put behind bars for a long time, you know, and so our local law enforcement is doing an amazing job here in Jacksonville. You know, all levels of law enforcement are collaborative. We all work together through the Northeast Florida Human Trafficking Coalition, and so these guys are working day in and day out, putting their lives at risk, you know, investigating these crimes and trying to bring these traffickers to justice in our community. And so her song got started because, you know, we asked the question, well, when you do go in and you arrest these traffickers and you recover these women, where do they go? Where do they go? Exactly. So 4.5 years ago, we started asking that question and nobody really had an answer. And we thought, we have to do something about this in our city.
We're going to learn more about that. We've got to take a break real quick, but when we come back, it takes a village, clearly, and how you can help raise awareness and lend support to survivors of human trafficking. We'll be finding out more when we come back.
Southside Kia and Kia of Orange